Well, obviously we all hope that this will be the case. We just can't afford, to continue as we used to work before COVID-19. The world needs to learn something from that. This is about environmental care. This is about how we, let's say, organize our value chains. This is how we interact together in a global space. Interestingly enough, COVID-19 has actually turned out that the countries became, more nationalistic when it came to face masks and vaccine and medicine and what have you. They should have actually, been opening up more so that they would have a global coordination about the learnings which other countries had already on COVID-19. So I think this is a learning now which the nations need to take and say, hey, if we work together more, if we connect data and information, we'd be much better off to fight pandemics like COVID-19, and there could be more. So we need to learn how we connect data, how we interact together in a much more coordinated way. Whether that works or not, obviously, politics is not my field of expertise, but we can do better, definitely can do better, as we have done in the last 6 or 3 months on average in the world. I have to say that I'm very proud about the German government, how they have been able to work this out in both ways. First of all, on protecting the safety and the health of our people, and secondly, also how they have been able, to sort of address the social issues in terms of short-term work, not just fire everybody and let them go and be on their own, but said, hey, let's sit together. How can we, bridge that situation? How can we make sure that we have short-term work, that the companies and the government work together to get something done? And that, I think, is going to be one of the major topics where Germany could actually turn out to be stronger after the crisis as they used to go into the crisis. Yeah. So I'm very hopeful. But as I said, the jury is out globally, but we need to be more interactive. We need to connect our data, our information, because the next pandemic is just around the corner. That's for sure.
Joe, very interesting you should mention Kurzarbeit, or short-term working as well, because we all seem to have learnt from what the Germans did in the GFC. And dare I say it, we have a furlough scheme in Britain which is pretty much mimicking it as well. I just want to pick you up on a comment that you've made to Süddeutsche Zeitung today. They're quoting you as saying, we're not planning to cut any jobs due to the coronavirus crisis. But are you planning to cut jobs more generally due to the secondary crisis, which is the economic crisis?
Well, what I basically said is, if you have only a short-term issue on utilization, we are not going to let our people go, because the moment, the economy is back, we've got nobody to help us serve our customer. However, if there's structural changes, for example, going from fossil energy to renewable energy, that's not going to come back. So we need to be mindful about structural changes, and we must not confuse taking care of structural changes with short-term issues which we can bridge by having our people work shorter or have short-term work, or the company help them to come along. So we need to be very, very mindful about separating structural topics which need to be addressed no matter what, because they would affect the future, whereas we want to bridge short-term disruption because we need the people, the qualification, the experts, when the economy picks up again and we need to deliver and innovate.
Joe, I'll just squeeze one more in. You mentioned your pride at what the German government has done to preserve jobs and societal change as well. What about on a broader basis? I see the EU and the European Commission still wrangling about where the money goes, about how the money gets displaced as well. Do you have concerns that the Commission and the Union more generally will get this wrong?
Well, I mean, you're addressing a very good point. We have been very generous all over the world with stimulus programs, big numbers coming out. But now we, as I always say, we need to put the potato on the fork. So that means we really need to be specific at what exactly are we doing, what and when, and how will that turn out to secure jobs and economic recovery. So that is now on the agenda. That needs to come on the agenda everywhere, by the way, not just in Germany or in the EU. Also in the United States. China, I have to say, has done an amazingly great job in recovery. Not saying the system is all that desirable, but it's been very effective to bring that economy back. and we need to get a good answer also in Europe. And I think the European Commission is saying the right things, but now they need to do the right thing in structuring that all together. And the big issue will be, will there be a 27-state unanimous decision about what to do and when? And I have to say I'm a bit skeptical about these unanimous votes, because it takes forever. And if you have to compromise 27 times, the outcome is typically not what a strong economy desires, to be up against the big nations like China and the United States. So I believe the EU needs to step up. I'm very happy that Chancellor Merkel and the German government has the presidentship on the EU, because they can really share now the experiences which we have done in Germany for the global EU and maybe bring them forward. Europe needs that, because at the end of the day, this is about being on the table with the big nations like China and the United States if it comes to economic global issues. And Germany alone is too small, and the EU would be right on the table, but they need to have a joint foreign economic policy, and desirably also a European defense policy, so that they can come on the table and be on the same level than the other big nations. And that would be good for the world, it would be good for Europe, and obviously it would be good for Siemens, because we are literally everywhere in all those countries.